Welcome back to our podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in. In this episode, we're diving into something that feels really personal, but also really important. We want to talk about life after loss, about starting over, about new beginnings, and yes, about finding love again, and all the challenges that comes with that, and the unexpected gifts too.
So I have to ask, now that we started this podcast and open up more publicly, do you feel like people assume you're still walking around carrying grief and trauma all the time? Especially now that you're in a similar situation again with your boyfriend being ill?
Hmm, good question. I don't really know what people think, and honestly, I don't spend too much time worrying about it either. But since we've been sharing more openly, I do hope people don't assume that, because that's just not the whole picture. Yes, grief and trauma are part of my story, and of course, they still affect me, and some days more than others. That's just reality. Grief doesn't have an expiration date, so
No,
yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't. I mean, that's the thing, right? It doesn't go away. You just learn how to live with it.
That's it. And it changes you for sure. But the biggest thing I've learned from all this is how much life is still worth living, even on hard days. And right now, I'm actually really happy. I'm in love and I feel grounded, and I genuinely love life, maybe even more deeply now than before.
I'm so happy to hear that. And you have definitely learned this the hard way. But, after the first couple of episodes here, I do somehow understand if some may assume that you are still in the middle of trauma and grief again. But I guess it's just different now. And we have also been discussing this. So why don't you fill us in with what you told me?
Yes, we have discussed this for sure, because I also do understand if some might think that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. And I think it's important to share that it's okay to feel happy and to be okay, even in grief. And I must say, we are so blessed with such incredible, beautiful listeners who reaches out to us, telling us openly about their stories with grief and gives us feedback that this is an important topic. And that is such a wonderful thing. Imagine being able to reach out to others and make them feel less alone and also more normal, maybe, in their grief. I mean, that's huge. And I'm still stunned over all the love. So thank you so, so much, all of you.
Yeah, we are for sure. Thank you. Thank you. That is truly the purpose of this. And I must also add that many of our listeners also say that hearing these first episodes made them emotional. They cry because, I mean, it is a heartbreaking story for sure. Some also said that after hearing the first episode, they had to prepare for the next one because hearing it on their way to work or going somewhere, they just had to sit in their car and cry it all out before going in. And maybe it wasn't a great idea to listen to it in that exact moment. But it's actually so touching to hear, that means something to us.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, that is totally understandable. We get emotional too, recording and hearing. But
Yeah.
I hope it gives you all hope also, because I truly wish that this story also shows that life goes on despite it all. I mean, it can open us up to so much depth and beauty also.
For sure. And I need to say that I know your husband would be so proud of you for doing this. And
Mm,
I know your boyfriend now is too. And all of us around you, of course.
thank you. How lucky am I being surrounded with so much love? And as I said before, I have learned to live with my grief and trauma, and I think I do it pretty well considering it all. I choose life in the best way I can. I mean, I'm so thankful for everything I have in my life, and I feel truly blessed and loved.
Yeah, you are for sure. And I feel the same way. I think people forget that life doesn't pause after loss. We still have to live And honestly, love doesn't take away from grief. It just shows that your heart is still open. And that is something to be proud of, not judged for. I know you're not looking for a validation, but still, I just wanted to say that because I know this journey has been incredibly tough for you in so many ways.
It's been a hell of a ride for sure, ups and downs, but that's life, I guess. You just have to do the best you can with whatever comes your way. It's not easy, but it's like I've said so many times before, you have to choose to be happy and to create a good life for yourself.
Indeed. But finding happiness or love again must have made your days brighter or easier for sure. At least I would imagine that.
Yes, of course it did. The truth is, meeting him, my boyfriend, was such a big and beautiful turning point for me. He helped me heal in ways I don't even think he realized at the time. And of course, we both wish the circumstances were different now. I mean, this wasn't how it was supposed to be, but this is our reality. And when he was diagnosed, he was so heartbroken, not just for himself, but because he knew what I've already been through. And very early on, he said to me that he would understand if I wanted to walk away and not be a part of this. But of course, I wouldn't. I love him, and that was never even a question for me. But I totally understand why he said it. He wanted to protect me.
Wow. That's incredibly touching and also just such a reflection on how deep your love really is from both sides. But can I ask, did a part of you feel afraid to love again? Not just because of what you'd already been through, but because of the possibility of losing again?
Of course, yeah, I was afraid to love again. That fear is real, as I said before. But it's like I had to ask myself, what's the alternative? To shut down, to stop living? That's not who I want to be. And even if love comes with the risk of pain, it also brings so much joy and presence. So I chose love and I chose life again.
That is love, true love, but also so incredibly brave. It's such a powerful reminder that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to live fully even while carrying the past with you.
Right. And despite it all, the cancer and treatments, we still have hope, of course. We plan ahead, we laugh, we make the most of every single day. And we love each other. We love to travel and explore, and we just love life. And honestly, no one knows what tomorrow brings. No one.
That is true for all of us, I guess. And hearing you say this is so amazing that you choose to live and to enjoy every minute. You and he is really good at that. And I know it's not easy to share everything, but hearing your story is going to speak to so many people listening.
I really hope so. That's why I want to share, because as I said, maybe someone out there feels a little less alone hearing this. And grief and love can exist side by side. I mean, life is messy and beautiful and hard, and somehow we keep going because we just have to.
So, to everyone listening, wherever you are in your journey, know that it's okay to feel all the things: sadness and joy, fear and hope, and probably anger as well.
Yep, for sure.
And if your heart is still open, that is definitely something to hold on to.
Yeah. And also, if you aren't totally there now, take care of your heart in the meantime. It's doing a lot more work than people can see.
I think this also is a big takeaway for anyone out there listening. What you are saying just there. I mean, this is important for everyone, not just those in grief, but all of us, to live more in the present and in the moment and make the best of what you have right now. Don't dwell so much, just do. And you too, I mean, you are both such huge role models for how you choose to handle this.
I concur, as Leonardo said in the movie. And I feel blessed, really, really blessed, honestly. This isn't something I or we chose, and it's definitely not anyone's fault that life threw this at me or us. it is what it is. And I would choose him again and again, no question. He is my person. I mean, we have so much fun together. He's the funniest, most loving, positive, and caring person. And now, when we choose to live like we do, I often forget that he's even sick. He just radiates this energy. I don't know. He's a special one for sure.
He is, and you are right. I love love. So I concur also, we can say.
Good.
Let's shift gears a little because, well, I just feel it's important to bring this up too. We're not here to judge anyone, but the truth is, over the years, you have received some, let's say, skeptical or even negative responses, especially around finding new love and choosing happiness again so soon after, and, so on. Sometimes it's been criticism wrapped in concern or so called well meaning advice. And I think that's part of why this topic came up in the first place. It feels important to address, the before mentioned widow police.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say. People are people, maybe. I mean, some are genuinely kind and supportive, some are just curious. And then there are a few who honestly can be pretty hurtful. That's just how it is, I think.
Yeah.
And you know what's strange? I've sometimes felt that people were almost, I don't know, annoyed by the fact that I found love again, like my healing was somehow uncomfortable for them. I don't know again, but I think change is hard for people, especially when it challenges their idea of what grief should look like, maybe. And my husband's passing affected many people around me also. So I've also heard comments that have made me pause because, like, maybe some think I'm sharing my story for attention or even seeking pity. I don't know. Maybe it's just my own thoughts and fears, but I mean, that is hard because that's the last thing I want. I share because I know how lonely grief can be. And if something I say makes one person feel less alone, I think it's worth it.
I totally hear you. And honestly, it makes me really sad that you had to deal with that kind of judgment on top of everything else. And that was also some of the feedback we got from a listener on how some felt like the widow police was there right away after with judgment after losing someone. I mean,
Mm,
come on, people. If it makes someone else happy and it doesn't hurt you or anyone around you, just be happy for them.
yeah.
I mean, of course, you shared your story. You lived through things most people can't even imagine, and you've done it with so much honesty and heart. That's not attention seeking either. That's just courage. And I think anyone who really listens can feel the difference. But I also must say that it's been 5 years this year since your husband passed away. And I feel like you have been pretty private and quiet about it until now. At least that's my opinion,
Hmm.
which is very understandable because it is your life and your journey. But for you now to open up is such a big and positive thing, in my opinion. And I'm so proud of you. And I think most of us around you are. And this idea that grief has to look a certain way or last a certain amount of time, it's just so narrow. You're allowed to be happy again, you're allowed to love again, and that doesn't erase what you've been through. If anything, it honors it. It shows that love and life can still grow, even in broken places. And that's not something to judge, that's something to admire.
Thank you. Beautiful words. Thank you. Thank you. Means a lot. I'm tearing up now. Because you're right. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Moving forward doesn't mean erasing the past. It just means I've chosen to carry my story in a way that allows joy too. It's not always easy, but it's worth it for sure.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
But I must say it's fascinating though, and honestly frustrating because I felt like sometimes people pretended to be concerned for me, but I could feel like it wasn't genuine. It was like it was this subtle judgment behind their words, and the intention kind of shone through in a way. I don't know, maybe, like I said, it annoyed them that I was moving forward too fast or whatever it was. I guess Janteloven could be the excuse for this. I don't know.
Yeah. Janteloven is still alive, unfortunately, in Norway at least. Maybe I should explain this so that people know what we're talking about, because I think it's a Scandinavian thing.
Hmm.
So, Janteloven, the law of Jante, I guess it's called in English, is in fact this social concept from Scandinavia, especially Norway and Denmark. It basically discourages people from standing out or being too successful. The core idea is like, don't think you're better than anyone else. It promotes humility and conformity over personal ambition or pride. It's actually quite the opposite of the American spirit, I feel like.
Indeed. Yeah. But I really do think it plays into how people, or some people, respond to someone else's grief. First, there is this silent judgment around how you grieve. If you're too open with your grief, maybe posting in social media or talking about it a lot, people might think you're being dramatic or seeking attention. But if you seem to move on too quickly, I say this in caps because, you might also be judged, like your grief wasn't deep enough. And basically, anything outside the unspoken norm makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, basically, that there's a pressure to grieve the right way, which usually means like everyone else, or really like everyone thinks, I should say,
Hmm.
quietly and without disrupting the group. And that's Jante. Don't feel too much, don't heal too fast. And when you start to smile again or find joy or maybe even fall in love again, like you did, you might feel that subtle pushback like, hey, you're not supposed to be okay yet. You're supposed to stay in that sad space a little longer. There's this idea that moving on too soon means you didn't love deeply enough, which of course is completely untrue. But it's kind of thinking Jante's fuels.
And then there's this thing where everyone suddenly becomes an expert on your grief. People feel entitled to have opinions about how you should be handling it. It's kind of a social control, maybe you can say. And it can make grief feel even more isolating. In the end, people start to hide. They hide their sorrow and they also hide their joy. They're self censor because they're afraid to being judged. And that's the power of Janteloven, or, annoying or annoyed people. It doesn't
Yeah,
just shape how we live, it shapes how we grieve also. And I want to make it clear, though, that as I tried to say before, I try not to let any of this affect me. But of course, to some degree, it does, or did in the beginning. Not anymore. Bye bye, trolls. But honestly, I think it all comes down to people's self esteem and how you see yourself and maybe your self worth. I don't know. We are all so different, of course, but some people really struggle with that. And sadly, some feel the need to pull others down just to feel better about themselves. And I think we all know that kind of personality.
for sure. The ones who always have something negative to say when you try to grow or do something different. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. And I don't allow people like that to drain my energy anymore. I'm done with that. And that's also something this whole journey through grief has really taught me. I need genuine people around me, people who get it, who meet me where I am without this judgment.
I get that completely. Grief really cuts through all the noise, doesn't it? It's like you suddenly don't have the patience for anything that feels fake or forced. And honestly, it makes you more honest too, maybe. about what you need, about who you want in your life. It's not about being rude. It's just that when you've been cracked open like that, you don't have the energy for polite masks or sugarcoating. You want people who can just show up and stay real with you, I guess.
That's it. One of the strange things about grief is how it strips away all the extra layers of life, I guess you can say, because suddenly there is no energy left for small talk or surface level connections. It's not that you stop caring about people, but your tolerance for anything that feels fake or shallow just disappears in a way. For me, at least, it was like I started craving authenticity, real conversations, real emotions, and just real people who show up as they are. There's this deep need for others to get it in the beginning, or at least not try to fix you or distract you from your pain. You don't want someone to cheer you up or tell you to, look on the bright side, everything happens for a reason, and you just want someone who can sit with you in the dark, who doesn't flinch when you talk about death or sadness or fear. And that's when you begin to really notice who is capable of meeting you in that space. Grief has a way of revealing what's real, both in yourself and in the people around you, also. And it can be painful for sure, but it's also kind of freeing, I guess you can say, because when you're in that raw, vulnerable place, you don't have the energy to pretend. You don't want someone offering empty words or engaging in small talk. You want real connection. And I guess that can be hard for some, and I totally get that. So I can be too direct sometimes, and I can see how that can be challenging, especially for people who have known me for a long time.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like grief turns down the volume on everything that doesn't matter and turns up the volume on everything that does. And as you said, this can be maybe hard for some to relate to or understand, maybe. It truly is for me, but I think this podcast has opened my mind to the importance of understanding and the realness, if that makes sense. To dare
Hmm.
to be real and ask uncomfortable questions if you wonder something, because you will get a real answer back, most likely. I must admit that I was a little scared of asking deep questions or what to think when you found someone new, but I was never not happy for you, I must say. And I think just talking about this now just shows how important it is to just be happy for people and how they handle their situation. Have respect, I think you should say. If it
Mm.
helps to post on social media, do so. And if you found love again, great. So happy for you. It is easy to sit on the outside and judge, but you just shouldn't.
Mm. And I totally understand and I get it. It's hard and it's complicated for sure. But I mean, don't waste your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what? I must say, I always come back to this poem. I know, me and my poems and quotes.
Bring it on.
So, it's called Desiderata, and I say this in my dialect. Some of you have probably heard it before, but it's been like a guide for me for years. I even have it framed on my bedroom wall, and I've had it there for years. And can I say it's my Bible? I hope that doesn't offend anyone. But it's really become my personal set of life rules. It's a bit long to read here, but if anyone's curious, maybe go Google. It's worth it.
I love that you have that on your wall. And I actually haven't read it before.
Mhm.
So I think that I should Google it right now.
Okay.
Because, I don't know, made me curious to what it says.
Okay. Go
But,
for it. Read it.
mm, okay, let's see. I don't even know how you say that in English, though. It's, no, I don't even want to attempt. Desiderata? How do you spell?
Desiderata.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Anyways, I'll read it now. Um, Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. And it says by Max Ehrmann from 1927. And that is really beautiful and grounding and made me out of breath. But it totally makes sense that it's been important for you, especially now. It has that calm, wise energy, like a reminder to stay true to yourself in the middle of chaos.
That's exactly it. And I just love it. And I read it all the times, actually. So,
So did I
anyways.
do a good job then?
Yeah, you did. Of
Okay,
course you
good.
did.
Yeah.
But anyways, the truth is, most of the time, I'm just living a normal life in all its unnormality. I mean, despite everything, I don't owe anyone an explanation for how I choose to live my life or what I choose to share or do. Life is too short. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And honestly, it makes me a bit mad that we even have to say all that out loud. Like, why do people feel entitled to judge how someone grieves or how they choose to keep living after something so hard, like losing someone, or how they tell their stories? I think what you're doing, choosing love again, talking about this so openly, is incredibly brave.
What we are doing, because I could never do this alone, and you know that. And you are definitely sharing also and helping. So thank you, sister. And I keep calling you sister. That's because I find it hard saying your name in English, Katrine. It just sounds weird to me. So, yes, if anyone has wondered or even been annoyed over the sister thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sister.
Thank you, sister.
So, to kind of conclude here, can you be happy again after experiencing deep grief or trauma?
You know, I was actually listening to this Norwegian podcast the other day, and they were talking about happiness and gratitude and all this, and how some people just seem to have a natural baseline for happiness, like this emotional set point they carry within themselves.
Right.
And the idea was that if you were genuinely happy before something terrible happened, like grief or trauma, then maybe it's easier to return to that place afterwards. Not in the same way, of course, but that you sort of have a memory of joy inside you, something to come back to. I don't know. It's
That is
interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting idea. Like happiness as kind of an emotional muscle memory,
Hmm.
or as they explain that some people have more talent for happiness.
Yeah. It's not that grief disappears or that you're ever the same again, but maybe if you've had that deep sense of contentment once, it's not gone forever. It's just buried for a while. I don't know if I believe it applies to everyone, but it made me wonder. I've definitely changed since losing my husband and everything that has happened in my life, but I've also found moments of real joy again. It's different now, but it's still happiness.
So, what would you say has changed the most in you after loss and grief?
The most? Hmm, that's a hard one. But I think maybe I've become both harder and softer at the same time, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I've definitely had to grow a thicker skin over the years to protect myself. I've become much more intentional about how I spend my energy, who I let in, and what I say yes to. I mean, I choose calm, I choose peace, and I choose people who feel good to be around. And that's a boundary I've had to learn the hard way, you can say. But at the same time, I've also become softer, maybe more open, more loving. I don't take anything for granted, not for a single second. I feel things more deeply now, and I try to live from that place, I guess I could say.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that change in you for sure. You do choose calmness also. I feel like that's one thing that I've really noticed because there has been, a few incidents where when my kids been loud in the back seat of the car and you've been like, hey, just calm down and la la la. And you've actually, with your calm voice, managed to
Yes.
make them shut up.
Yeah.
I mean, be quiet or
As we
listen.
said before, you can say
But you
anything
don't
in your
like,
normal tone.
yes, you don't like a lot of noise around you now that maybe you could handle before. I guess that was my point that I wanted to
Hmm.
get out there. And then you let us know if you think it's too much or you just withdraw yourself.
Hmm.
And then also, we have done a few road trips when we've been back in Norway, where
Hmm.
we wanted to include you, of course, as a sister. And then you said, no, I think being in a car with so many people going places, kids and dogs, and that would be also too much for you. So you are very honest in your responses and you know what you can handle and what you can't handle.
Hmm.
And that is something, of course, I wanted you to come on the road trip, but it's also something that it's you know, something that I appreciate about you because you say it as it is. You give us a reason and then it's okay.
Hmm.
Of course it is.
It
And
is what it is.
it is what it is. You are
Hmm.
just more real and more open and direct. So nothing wrong about that. Easy to deal with, I should say.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's also, I must say, easier to be totally open with you guys. I don't have to pretend around you. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, now, if I think something kind about someone, for instance, if I notice they smell nice or they look beautiful or they have this warm energy, I tend to say it out loud. I don't hold back anymore. Life is too short for that, I think. And I tell the people I love that I love them all the time. Maybe too much, if you ask my kids, because you just never know. And that has been one of the strangest gifts of all this, feeling more connected, more awake to what really matters in life.
That is a really beautiful takeaway. I mean, we could all learn from that. If you love someone, say it.
Hmm.
But I'm also wondering, doesn't that kind of presence get exhausting sometimes? Like being that emotionally open and tuned in all the time. Does it ever feel like it's too much for you?
It definitely is. Some days it's taken me years of practice to find that balance, I guess, and some days are still harder than others. I have to constantly remind myself to choose what is right for me, to protect my peace and my energy. And it can be exhausting for sure, being that present and open. That is why I've learned how important it is for me to rest, to have quiet time, to just be alone and recharge. It's not about shutting people out, it's about taking care of myself so I can show up fully when it matters.
Of course it is. And that's completely understandable. But when you say choose, do you really mean it's a conscious decision?
Yeah, I really believe that. We do have the ability to, I guess you can say, to influence our thoughts. And when we do that, we can shift how we feel too. At least for me, it is
Hmm.
the way I do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not automatic. It takes awareness and practice every single day, I guess. It's like building a muscle. Some days I get it right, some days I don't, but I keep trying.
Because I mean, life is all about change, isn't it? And being able to adapt, to shift with the challenges, that's such a big part of getting through it.
Totally. And honestly, some days I just wish my biggest issue was that something like I was running late to an appointment or being stuck in traffic, my jeans not fitting, or that I burned dinner, those small everyday problems that used to feel important. I mean, they still happen, of course, but I don't give them the same weight anymore. It might sound cliche, but I don't dwell on that stuff. If I burn dinner, oh well, we'll eat something else. It's no big deal. But yeah, some days I really do wish those were my biggest concerns again. And I know everything is subjective. We all have our struggles. Mine aren't more important than anyone else's, but they're definitely shifted my perspective, you can say.
I think I need to start practicing this too.
Hmm.
Because, sometimes that does feel like the end of the world when you have
Yeah,
people over and you burn your pizza that you're serving.
I get it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but it probably is something that you can practice, like you say.
It
But
is for sure.
maybe sometimes, it takes something dramatic to happen to see that there's more important things in life.
Hmm.
But it makes me wonder, have you felt that it's maybe harder for people around you to talk about their own issues now? Like maybe they hesitate because your experience has been so heavy and they feel like their stuff doesn't compare to that.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely come up over the years. But I really want people to feel normal around me. I want them to share what's going on in their lives, big or small. It's all relative. Just because I've been through something huge doesn't mean their struggles don't matter. I want them to talk to me, cry, laugh, whatever. And honestly, of course, this has been talked about over the years. But I'm lucky. I have the most beautiful friends and family, and we still talk about everything, maybe in a slightly different way, but we connect, and that's what matters the most.
That is really what matters the most. Because I think one of the hardest things after going through something life changing like grief or trauma is figuring out what normal even means anymore. It's not about going back to how things were, because honestly, that version of normal is gone. It's about creating a new normal, right?
Yeah, it really is. And there is this expectation sometimes that you will bounce back or return to the person you were before, both by others and yourself. And that's my experience at least. But that person doesn't exist anymore, not in the same way. And that can be hard for some, and also you.
Yeah.
I mean, grief changes you. It shifts your priorities, your energy, even how you show up in conversations. And that can make friendships evolve too. Some get stronger and deeper because suddenly you're talking about the real stuff. You're not afraid of silence or tears or messy emotions. And other relationships might fade, and that's painful. But I've come to see it as kind of a, I don't know, sorting process, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like you see more clearly who's able to meet you where you are in life and who maybe can't, and who is worth holding on to in that way.
Maybe. And I have to say, there is no judgment in that. some people just don't have the capacity for certain conversations, and I think that's okay. It is what it is. But when you're grieving, you crave honesty and presence. You don't want to talk about the weather when your world is falling apart. You want someone who can sit next to you in the dark and just be there. No fixing, no forcing, just being. And that is my experience with all this. And of course, I know we are all so different, and this won't be relatable to everyone.
Nina, before we wrap up, I just want to ask because I know I always joke about, it's not really a joke, but I say I have a bad memory. I keep forgetting things, the easiest things. And you mentioned to me that after your loss, your memory feels like it's gotten way worse. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, I don't think we have mentioned this before, but this is also kind of a side effect from grief, I think, because I just can't hold on to or store information the way I used to, and it's harder to concentrate in general. Like I lost my focus in a way. There's this kind of brain fog that is hard to explain.
Yeah, I get it. But can you give us some examples?
Well, I used to love reading books, knitting complicated patterns, or just patterns. I don't know if they were that complicated, but I mean, I just can't do it anymore. I really struggle with this now. Some days I feel like I can't even finish a sentence, and it's frustrating and a bit sad too, to be honest. It feels like a brain damage or something, hard to explain again. And maybe this is a topic for a whole episode of its own because it includes so much, grief and the actual cognitive changes that comes with it.
Yeah, let's definitely come back to that. I think a lot of people would recognize themselves in what you just said there. Because grief doesn't just mess with your heart, it messes with your head too and your whole self, I guess you can say. It's not just emotional, it's physical. It gets into everything.
It's like your whole system has to reboot and you're not quite sure how it's supposed to run anymore, I guess.
But I think that's why these conversations matter. Not because we have answers, but because it's just real. It is what it's like. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's also deeply human.
Yeah. And if you're listening and feel a bit lost or foggy in your own grief, please know that it's not just you. You're not broken, you're just in it. One step at a time is more than enough.
And find those people around you who let you be as you are. No pressure to move on, no silver linings, just there, just being there. That kind of company is gold when everything else feels upside down.
Totally. And if you feel like it, say something kind to someone today. It doesn't have to be big, just something kind. It matters more than we think.
Yes, and we'll be back soon with more. And if you're sitting with your own story, feel free to share it with us. We love hearing from you.
Take care.
Bye.
Nina had a dream, all black and white. We were talking in English, yeah, that ain't right. Two Norwegian sisters miles apart, but that dream lit a fire, put a mic to the heart. Katrine's in the States, Nina's back home. Two voices, one mission through the microphone. Grief in life, the highs and the lows. We hit record, where the file go? Oh, we fumble, we stumble, but baby we shine. Lost the intro, never mind. Wi-Fi shaky, cables crossed, but our hearts stay strong, no moment lost. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we sip, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. Grief walks in, pulls up a chair, says I'll stay a while, yeah, life ain't fair. But we mix it with laughter, a toast in hand, finding light where the dark still stands. Ba-da-da-boo-doo. Is this thing on? Mic's on mute. Oh well, move along. Ba-ba-dee, ba-ba-da, take two. Oops, too late. Let's laugh it through. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we sit, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. So plug in, lean in, let's take our time. No script, no filters, just rhythm and rhyme. We're here, we're now, we're in our prime. Two sisters, one dream, on the mic.